After being reborn as a billionaire, I'm the real young master of the Hector family, while Zephyr is the adopted fake young master by my parents. For the sake of an arranged marriage in the Hector family, Zephyr married the second married daughter of a wealthy family in Jiangcheng who is 10 years older than him, and I married the pampered daughter of the Delilah family in the capital city. In my previous life, that pampered daughter tortured and killed me. After being reborn and returning to the day of the arranged marriage, I chose the option that was more beneficial to me. Dad, I really don't want to marry Evelyn. That woman is just a slut. I don't want to marry a slut. My younger brother Zephyr started to act coquettishly with my father again. How can you talk like that? She's also a lady from a noble family. Hector was slightly annoyed. Although Zephyr wasn't his biological son, he received more love from my father. In my previous life, when we were 2 years old, we were abducted and sold to the countryside. After losing me, Mom felt extremely guilty and wept all day long. In order to comfort Mom, Dad Hector went outside and adopted a boy who looked very similar to me. That boy was Zephyr. Until I was found and brought back some time ago, Zephyr had been one of the billionaires and the only heir of the Hector family. However, since I returned to the Hector family, the international demand for steel has decreased and the market requirements have become higher, so the business of the Hector family has taken a nosedive. Therefore, now we have to rely on arranged marriages to save the family business. Dad, it's okay. Just let Zephyr marry Delilah. I'm willing to marry Evelyn, I said calmly. Zephyr looked at me in astonishment. Even Hector was shocked and looked at me, but what he didn't know was that in my previous life, I had suffered cruel abuse in the Delilah family. My body couldn't help but shiver. Skinning, cutting off flesh, and scraping bones. These were the means of the Delilah family. All they wanted was for me to reveal the core manufacturing methods of our Hector family. Moreover, Delilah, on the surface, was a wealthy daughter, fair-skinned, beautiful, tall, and voluptuous, a real beauty. In fact, she was a transgender and a complete pervert. It just so happened that since I came back, this younger brother of mine has given me a lot of underhanded blows. Not to mention the out-of-control breaks in my car or the open and covert struggles in my career. Just because he made my biological mother hospitalized, I will make him pay in this life. In my previous life, in order to take revenge on my mother for making him marry the second married daughter of a wealthy family, Zephyr actually got his bad friends to beat my mother until she was hospitalized. I'm determined to take revenge in this life. Axel, are you sure? Hector couldn't believe it and confirmed again. Dad, I'm sure. I'm willing to marry Evelyn. Good. Good. You're worthy of being my son, Axel. Since you can make way for your younger brother, I'll prepare more betrothal gifts for you. Although Evelyn is divorced, her personality is okay. My father, who favored Zephyr, naturally couldn't bear to let Zephyr marry the second married daughter of a wealthy family in Jiangcheng when he saw this scene. Hector. What did you tell me? Our son has stayed in the countryside for so many years and hasn't enjoyed a good life. How can you still let him? Mom got angry immediately when she heard this, and her tears fell instantly. Since I returned to the Hector family, Mom couldn't bear to let me suffer at all. She took good care of me with delicious food and drinks every day, always calling me baby and darling, which sometimes made me feel a bit embarrassed. However, I also felt the real maternal love. Now that Hector asked me to marry a divorced woman, Mom was naturally worried. Hector. Just when Mom was about to say something more, I stopped her. It's okay, Mom. Let younger brother stay in the capital city. He grew up in the capital city since childhood and is familiar with this place. Yes, let him stay in the capital city and taste the hardships that I didn't experience in my previous life. Mom looked at me with teary eyes, so kind as a mother. And Zephyr was looking smug. I understood what he meant. In this family, Hector had the final say. However, the fierceness exposed in his eyes made me shudder. Although I didn't want to marry an older divorced woman either, it was better than losing my life. With Hector's decision, the matter of exchanging brides was settled like this. Our family first had an engagement dinner with the Delilah family and Delilah. I stood uneasily in the private room of a top hotel, without any sense of security at all, because I knew how perverted the Blaze family was. Is this Brother Axel? As soon as Delilah saw me, she greeted me in a coquettish voice. To be honest, her voice sounded quite natural, and there was nothing too picky about it. If I hadn't heard the secrets of the Delilah family in my previous life, who would believe that the person in front of me, who had countless suitors among beautiful daughters of wealthy families, was actually a man? I forced myself to suppress my fear and greeted her awkwardly. Meanwhile, the enthusiastic and elaborately dressed Zephyr naturally took Delilah's hand. Brother, she will be your sister-in-law from now on. The elaborately dressed Zephyr was as delicate as a beautiful woman, just like a popular male star on TV. Seeing Zephyr showing off smugly in front of me, I remained silent on the surface, but actually I was secretly delighted. Just be smug. You won't be able to laugh after you marry her. How annoying. Delilah pounded Zephyr's chest. What a picture of a loving couple. The elders beside them saw the scene and all joked about it. On the surface, it really seemed like a happy ending. During the meal, only Mom comforted me. Axel, after you go to Jiangqing to get married, Mom will definitely prepare a big gift for you. Don't worry. I won't let you be wronged. I was deeply touched in my heart. At the dinner table, Blaze offered me a toast. With an amiable look of an elder, he still scared me so much that I almost couldn't hold my wine glass steadily. You know, in my previous life, it was Blaze who personally pulled out all of my fingernails and toenails. My physiological reaction made me unable to control my hands. Seeing my cowardly and embarrassing appearance, Blaze said on the surface that I was humble and sensible. However, according to the rules in the Beijing social circle, being inappropriate was being thoughtless. My brother grew up in the countryside before. Uncle Blaze, please forgive him. Come on, I'll offer you another toast. Hector looked at the son he had brought up since childhood, full of pride. Then he looked at me, and the barely noticeable disappointment and gloom in his eyes made me even more determined to leave the Beijing social circle. In fact, Hector was very reluctant to let me go to Jiangqing. To put it bluntly, wasn't it like becoming a live-in son-in-law, although Jiangqing is not far from the capital city, for the biological son of the Hector family to become a live-in son-in-law, no matter what, it didn't sound good when it was said. However, just the night before last, Hector received a phone call. I, who got up to go to the toilet, clearly saw Hector's helplessness and exhaustion. The next morning, Hector came to me. Son, although the Evelyn family is not in the capital city, they are our biggest supplier. Currently, our funds are in a very critical situation. If you can help me get goods at a low price after you go to the Evelyn family, our Hector family will be able to make a comeback. I readily agreed. Hector was also very touched. After all these years, you've worked hard, son. It's rare for you to have such a sense of the overall situation. Don't worry. As your father, I will definitely not treat you unfairly in the future. I felt a bit sad in my heart but showed gratitude on my face. In this way, I got my wish and came to Jiangqing. However, from the moment I got off the plane until I arrived at the Evelyn family's house, I didn't see my fiancée Evelyn. My future mother-in-law stammered that Evelyn was not feeling well. But I knew that this was just a way to intimidate me. I said on the surface that I understood, but I still felt a bit uncomfortable in my heart. I don't even mind that you're a second married daughter of a wealthy family, yet you're giving me the cold shoulder here. Could it be that this second married older daughter of the Evelyn family is a woman weighing 200 pounds, out of shape, and ugly? Although Evelyn wasn't there, my future father-in-law still entertained me warmly. Axel, although our Evelyn is divorced, she's still our beloved daughter. My father-in-law told me seriously. Having lived a second life, I knew what was important. Compared with the cruel, heartless, and perverted Delilah family, I didn't mind even if Evelyn was 10 years older than me and was divorced. Nothing was more important than my life. With this mindset, I faced my father-in-law and mother-in-law. I said very frankly and naturally, what's wrong with being divorced? What's wrong with being 10 years older? You're too superficial. Life is lived by two people. I don't mind Evelyn's past. I just want to have a future with her. Obviously, these words touched them. It also touched Evelyn, who was standing in the dark and hadn't spoken. Finally, Evelyn was willing to see me. Seeing Evelyn slowly walking out of the dark, I was stunned. She had a fair oval face, full of charm and incomparable beauty. I thought you were a playboy and looked down on me because I was divorced, so I didn't see you. I'm sorry, Evelyn said with a determined look in her eyes, mustering up her courage. In this social circle, with her experience like this, any young master from a wealthy family would despise her. If the wife is 3 years older, it's like getting a golden brick. Don't care so much about what happened in the past. Just live well in the present. I remembered the miserable situation in my previous life and said my sincere words from the bottom of my heart. It seemed to touch the depths of Evelyn's heart. Of course, I also had a bit of self-interest. I have to say that although Evelyn was 10 years older than me, she still had her charm. She had a slender figure with an hourglass shape. Her facial features were also very delicate and gentle. She was simply the ideal wife in my dreams. I was actually quite happy. I in this new life, it was like making up for the hardships I had suffered in my previous life. I didn't expect that. What surprised me even more was that after getting along for a period of time, I found that Evelyn was not only gentle and kind, often donating to disaster areas and stray dogs, but also very considerate to me. She not only bought me underwear and socks, but also asked the domestic helper at home to cook the dishes in the flavors that I liked. She took care of every little detail. Which man wouldn't be moved? Although during my time in Jiangcheng, I also heard some rumors. People all said that Evelyn was a husband killer. Her previous husband died not long after they got married. But who am I? In my previous life, my skin was hurt inch by inch, and the pain of scraping bones made me faint directly. Husband killer? How could I be afraid of this? So under my urging, Evelyn and I quickly got our marriage license, got married, and went into the bridal chamber. After being dressed up by the wedding makeup artist, Evelyn became even more charming, with a perfect figure and a fragrance on her body that constantly stimulated my desires. She gently hugged me and put her head on my chest. Husband, when she called me husband, as a man, my whole heart melted. But the next second, husband, I have 2 pieces of bad news to tell you. Evelyn stammered, her face flushed and she didn't dare to look at me with her eyes dodging. Tell me. I felt nervous in my heart. Oh no. She wouldn't want to kill me, would she? My previous husband died not long after we got married. Everyone says that I'm a husband killer. Actually, he drove fast when he was drunk. It really had nothing to do with me. It was just a business marriage with him. I gently hugged Evelyn into my arms. I said gently, honey, why are you also believing in this feudal superstition? You should know that I hate feudal superstition the most. With you by my side, I'm not afraid of anything. As I was speaking, I rubbed Evelyn's head and surprisingly found that her eyes were red. Then Evelyn hugged me even tighter. I felt the delicate and soft body of this wealthy daughter, and my body couldn't help but heat up. Then I asked, what's the other piece of bad news? Husband, actually, our Evelyn family is in a very serious financial crisis. Our products are outdated, and we've been rejected by the market recently. I'm afraid that if our family goes bankrupt in the future, you'll have to live a hard life with me. As she was talking, Evelyn started to cry. I'm really afraid that you'll abandon me. I didn't dare to tell you before. But after getting along with you during this period of time, I've really fallen in love with you. Axel. The beauty started to shed tears like pearls, and my protective instinct as a man reached its peak. I thought it was something serious. Having a second chance at life, what could be more important than staying alive? It's okay. My mother left me several million as private savings. So what if it's a hard life? Don't worry. We'll share both good and bad times in the future. Hearing this, Evelyn immediately hugged me tightly. The next morning, after Evelyn and I went downstairs, my mother-in-law said, you were so tired last night. Why didn't you sleep a bit longer? I specifically asked the maid not to bring you breakfast today. Evelyn and I blushed instantly. The Hector family also cared a lot about my life in the Evelyn family. So my parents and Zephyr came to Jiangqing in person to visit me. Seeing Evelyn tightly holding my hand, the members of the Hector family had different expressions on their faces. Hector showed a bit of discomfort, Mom was very happy, and my younger brother actually said to me in a low voice, "You still regard this husband-killing loser as a treasure." He said it softly right beside my ear. Hearing this, I exploded with anger instantly. Anyway, she's still your sister-in-law. Show some respect, or I won't be polite to you. Zephyr sneered contemptuously. Do you really think that just because you're the eldest son of the Hector family, you can do something to me? Or do you think the Evelyn family can give you any confidence? Didn't you expect that even in this new life, you're still doomed to be poor? The Evelyn family is going bankrupt. Beg me nicely now, and I might give you a meal in the future. I had calculated everything, but I never expected that Zephyr was also reborn. In the Evelyn family in Jiangcheng, of course, they had to fulfill their duty as hosts. My father-in-law and mother-in-law held a grand banquet and invited our whole family. Among the guests were many newly rich people in the business circle and old-time merchants. For the sake of new orders and the development of the Hector family, Hector and Zephyr naturally wouldn't let this opportunity to make friends slip away, so they both drank a bit too much. Only I was taken good care of by Evelyn. Whenever others tried to persuade me to drink, Evelyn would say, "Uncle, you can't force my husband to drink like this. Boss, if you want to drink, I'll drink with you instead." In this way, I was well protected by Evelyn and didn't drink much. Actually, Evelyn knew that I had a heart disease, and my loving wife didn't dare to let me take risks at all. On the contrary, Evelyn drank a little too much. After telling me, she went to the bathroom to sober up. After a while, I vaguely heard Evelyn scream. Because there were so many guests, not many people noticed the noise from the toilet. But I rushed over immediately. Evelyn was full of horror on her face, covering her disheveled clothes. "Honey." Obviously, my wife had been taken advantage of. "Husband? Your younger brother he." As soon as she saw me, Evelyn immediately hugged me tightly. Seeing Zephyr, who was also in a daze in the toilet, I knew what had happened. I stepped forward and kicked him hard. I kicked him flying directly. "How dare you lay your hands on your sister-in-law?" And I saw Zephyr in the toilet. When Zephyr saw me, his eyes changed from blurred to wild in an instant. "Brother?" Zephyr said in a sarcastic tone. "Isn't this my dear brother?" Zephyr, who was drunk, was no match for me at all. I kicked him straight into the corner. Seeing that I was about to step forward again, Evelyn quickly pulled me back. "Husband, there are many guests today." Looking at Evelyn's smeared makeup and her half-exposed clothes, I knew that Evelyn must have been bullied by Zephyr. And Evelyn, for the sake of taking care of the guests and everyone's face, after subconsciously calling for help, she fell silent. Thinking of this, I broke free from Evelyn's grip and punched him. "I don't care what it was like before, but she's your sister-in-law now. If you ever have any ideas about her again, I'll fight you to the death." With my fists clenched tightly and my blood boiling in my head, I even had the thought of killing him at that moment. "Huh? Fight to the death? What do you have to fight me with?" Zephyr, who had been punched by me, sobered up and staggered to his feet. "With the property of this woman from the Evelyn family? The precarious capital chain? The shabby products that can't be shown in public, son of a bitch." Evelyn gnashed her teeth. "You don't know yet, do you? Dad has already decided to transfer 50% of the shares of the group to me. Plus the 10% I already own in the Hector family. From now on, it will all be my property." Zephyr laughed smugly. "How is that possible? You're not even the biological child of the Hector family, no matter how much he was favored. I didn't believe that old Hector would hand over the group to a fake young master who had no blood relationship." "How do you know? Don't I have the blood of the Hector family?" "If I didn't have the blood of the Hector family, could you and I look so similar?" Zephyr sneered coldly. And I seemed to understand something. Zephyr was Hector's illegitimate son outside, so after I got lost, Zephyr could deceive my mother and become the real young master, what a cunning plan by Hector. When I inherit the Hector family and combine it with the Delilah family in the capital city, you, the eldest son of the Hector family from the countryside, and this tottering broken ship of the Evelyn family, how can you compete with me? Zephyr laughed triumphantly and pushed me away hard before walking out, and when I heard the words, Delilah family, I immediately sobered up. Evil will be punished by evil. On the day when Zephyr and Delilah got married, the capital city was bustling. It was the marriage alliance between two big families in the capital city. At the wedding scene, that old man Hector directly announced that he would transfer the management rights of the company to his son Zephyr. Everyone present was shocked. Some people who understood the situation also looked at me. I heard some whispers. This young master who was brought back halfway is the fake young master. It's impossible for the Hector family to hand over the business to the young master from the countryside. Zephyr is the heir of the Hector family, that's not right. When they went to pick up the bride this morning, I saw Axel running around for Zephyr wholeheartedly. I thought they had a good relationship. Alas, you don't understand. Rich people are all like this, showing one face in public and another behind the scenes. My mother's face gradually changed when she heard these words. Although my mother had known about this for a long time, when it really happened, she still couldn't control her emotions very well. My wife Evelyn took my mother's hand. Mom, it's okay. Axel is no worse than Zephyr. This wife who is 10 years older than me is really perceptive and knows when to speak and what to say. Sure enough, when my mother heard what her daughter-in-law said, she didn't say anything more and her expression softened. I looked at Delilah and Blaze on the stage. I sneered. In my previous life, in order to swallow up the property of the Hector family and satisfy their perverted desires, the father and daughter of the Delilah family, no, the father and son of the Delilah family tortured me severely. In this life, it's time for my dear younger brother to suffer instead. The wedding of Delilah and Zephyr was successfully completed. As relatives of the Hector family, I, Hector, and my mother went to pick Delilah up and bring her home together, while Evelyn made an excuse that she wasn't feeling well and asked my mother to send her back to Jiangcheng. Before leaving, Evelyn hugged me and whispered in my ear, "Husband, I think I'm pregnant." I was overjoyed. I hugged Evelyn tightly, so excited that I didn't know what to do. So you must come home. Evelyn's voice trembled. I nodded hurriedly and also made up my mind. After giving my mother some instructions, I arranged for someone to send them home. After bringing Delilah home, I was originally worried that Delilah, who was in the Hector family, wouldn't be able to show her true colors. But Blaze called in person and asked Zephyr and Delilah to go back to the Delilah family's house in the evening, under the pretext of giving the family heirloom of the Delilah family to his son-in-law. Zephyr naturally went there eagerly. Sure enough, things developed just as they did in my previous life. Only in the secret room in the garden of the Delilah family were there all kinds of tools. Thinking of these, I couldn't help but tremble. As I expected, after Zephyr went there, he never came back. In my previous life, the father and son of Blaze tortured me for a whole week. On the first day, Blaze said that Zephyr and Delilah were too tired last night and were resting. Hector didn't take it seriously either, and I also joked that my younger brother was really eager to give you a grandson. Hector even smiled slightly, and I knew that today was the easiest day for Zephyr. He was just hung up all day today, with only his toes touching the ground. On the second day, Blaze said that Zephyr and Delilah went to hand over the projects of the Delilah family. Hector was overjoyed, but I knew that at this time, Zephyr hadn't eaten for a day and had already had 10 fingernails and toenails pulled out. On the third day, by this time, Zephyr should have been raped by the father and son of the Delilah family in turn. Delilah, a delicate girl during the day, would turn into a pervert at night, torturing both men and women. Many men and women in their family had been tortured to death by Delilah. On the fourth day, Hector felt something was wrong and made a phone call. Zephyr on the other end of the phone said that he had just recovered from a hangover and wasn't sober yet. And I also showed concern for my good younger brother and took the phone. "Brother, happy newlyweds." The other side hung up the phone instantly, and I sneered. On the fifth day, presumably, Blaze had already started skinning at this time. On the 6th day, Zephyr was a pampered young master. He might not be able to hold on until today. On the 7th day, Blaze called Hector to pick up his son. The good news was that Hector's beloved son Zephyr was still alive. The bad news was that when Zephyr was picked up, he had already become disabled and was directly sent to a private hospital. The hospital immediately issued a critical illness notice. Sure enough, in this new life, the father and son of Blaze were still shockingly perverted, but this time, Zephyr, you asked for it. I, who seemed to care about my younger brother, hurriedly asked Hector to call the police. Dad, call the police quickly. Hector looked at the dying Zephyr in front of him and was on the verge of going crazy. Hector finally couldn't suppress his temper. Call the police? What's the use of calling the police? Hector suppressed all the news, and he began to develop all his personal connections, preparing to fight hard against the Delilah family. To put it bluntly, the Delilah family started from the underworld and had expanded their business from freight transportation to maritime transportation and then to construction over the years. And if the Hector family was merged, the Delilah family would truly become a multinational group with wealth comparable to that of a country and a complete business cycle. In my previous life, no matter what the father and son of Blaze asked me, I said I didn't know. It was because I really didn't know. In this life, I believed that Zephyr had already betrayed Hector long ago. After all, the means of the Delilah family were really capable of making anyone talk. Under such circumstances, how could the Hector family win against the Delilah family? Sure enough, soon there were many competitors in the market maliciously bidding, placing empty orders without payment, and so on. The situation of the group took a sharp turn for the worse. After staying in the capital city, the only person Hector could trust was me, his biological son. I gradually got in touch with the core team and economic circle of the Hector family. The Delilah family also kept wooing big capitalists and secretly sabotaging the business of the Hector family. The Delilah family declared that as long as the Hector family transferred 60% of its shares to the Blaze family, everyone would be safe. How is that possible? Blaze is such an idiot. A brute. Hector cursed in front of me. Dad, don't worry. I have a way to punish the Delilah family. I said with confidence. Axel, are you serious? If you can really bring down the Delilah family, our Hector family will be in your hands from now on. I thought to myself, even if you didn't say that, I had already secretly dealt with the shareholders of the Hector family. Really? Dad, I have the criminal evidence of the father and son of Blaze. During this period of time, I had been quietly waiting for the opportunity. In my previous life, the father and son of Blaze tortured and killed me. How could I not take revenge? When I personally sent Zephyr to the Delilah family to pick up the bride, I had already sent people to secretly install a hidden surveillance camera in their garden secret room. That is to say, I had the criminal evidence of the father and son of the Delilah family's torture and killing. I had already sorted out all the videos and then secretly asked people to investigate the list of people who had entered and left the secret garden of the Delilah family over the years. Then I directly handed them over to the police and released them online. In an instant, there was a great uproar. The police in the capital city attached great importance to it and solved the case at lightning speed. After losing its leader, the Delilah family, plus during this period of time I had already contacted all the general managers of the business divisions and subsidiaries of the Delilah family. It was as easy as turning my hand over to take over the business of the Delilah family. After I visited Delilah in prison, this pervert, who was neither human nor ghost, neither male nor female, was no longer in human shape. He roared at me through the window. Zephyr said you were reborn, and I didn't believe it. Do you believe that I'll kill you? He had also said such nonsense to the judge, but such remarks only further confirmed his identity as a mental and perverted person. Who would believe the words of a madman? And I smoothly became the boss of the Hector family. The Hector family also had a successful rebirth. Good things come in pairs. Zephyr woke up. Hector hurriedly took me to the hospital together. I also wanted to visit my dear younger brother, after arriving at the hospital and seeing the awakened Zephyr who was no longer in human shape, Hector felt extremely distressed. Zephyr, your brother has already avenged you. The father and son of the Delilah family are all in prison. Zephyr was extremely weak, but when he heard this, shock still showed in his eyes. You. Before Zephyr could speak, I sneered, yes, dear brother. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to get the criminal evidence of the Hector family. That's right, I already knew that the Delilah family was full of perverts. Didn't you want to go to the Delilah family? I made it happen for you. Hearing this, Hector shuddered all over. He widened his eyes, full of confusion, and looked at me. Brother, not only do you need to take revenge, but I also need to take revenge. I want to take revenge on the Delilah family. I want to take revenge for your harassing my wife. And Dad, how could I not take revenge for your heartlessly sending me away to the countryside back then? I said slowly, speaking very slowly. However, there were already huge fluctuations shown on Zephyr's heart monitor. Hector also hastened to defend himself. Axel, listen to my explanation. I looked coldly at my so-called father. I, who seemed to care about my younger brother, hurriedly asked Hector to call the police. Dad, call the police quickly. Hector looked at the dying Zephyr in front of him and was on the verge of going crazy. Hector finally couldn't suppress his temper. Call the police? What's the use of calling the police? Hector suppressed all the news. And he began to develop all his personal connections, preparing to fight hard against the Delilah family. To put it bluntly, the Delilah family started from the underworld and had expanded their business from freight transportation to maritime transportation and then to construction over the years. And if the Hector family was merged, the Delilah family would truly become a multinational group with wealth comparable to that of a country and a complete business cycle. In my previous life, no matter what the father and son of Blaze asked me, I said I didn't know .it was because I really didn't know .I in this life. I believed that Zephyr had already betrayed Hector long ago. After all, the means of the Delilah family were really capable of making anyone talk. Under such circumstances, how could the Hector family win against the Delilah family? Sure enough, soon there were many competitors in the market maliciously bidding, placing empty orders without payment, and so on. The situation of the group took a sharp turn for the worse. After staying in the capital city, the only person Hector could trust was me, his biological son. I gradually got in touch with the core team and economic circle of the Hector family. The Delilah family also kept wooing big capitalists and secretly sabotaging the business of the Hector family. The Delilah family declared that as long as the Hector family transferred 60% of its shares to the Blaze family, everyone would be safe. How is that possible? Blaze is such an idiot. A brute. Hector cursed in front of me. Dad, don't worry. I have a way to punish the Delilah family. I said with confidence. Axel, are you serious? If you can really bring down the Delilah family, our Hector family will be in your hands from now on, I thought to myself. Even if you didn't say that, I had already secretly dealt with the shareholders of the Hector family. Really? Dad, I have the criminal evidence of the father and son of Blaze. During this period of time, I had been quietly waiting for the opportunity. In my previous life, the father and son of Blaze tortured and killed me. How could I not take revenge? When I personally sent Zephyr to the Delilah family to pick up the bride, I had already sent people to secretly install a hidden surveillance camera in their garden secret room. That is to say, I had the criminal evidence of the father and son of the Delilah family's torture and killing. I had already sorted out all the videos and then secretly asked people to investigate the list of people who had entered and left the secret garden of the Delilah family over the years. Then I directly handed them over to the police and released them online. In an instant, there was a great uproar. The police in the capital city attached great importance to it and solved the case at lightning speed. After losing its leader, the Delilah family, plus during this period of time I had already contacted all the general managers of the business divisions and subsidiaries of the Delilah family. It was as easy as turning my hand over to take over the business of the Delilah family. After I visited Delilah in prison, this pervert, who was neither human nor ghost, neither male nor female, was no longer in human shape. He roared at me through the window. "Zephyr said you were reborn, and I didn't believe it. Do you believe that I'll kill you?" He had also said such nonsense to the judge, but such remarks only further confirmed his identity as a mental and perverted person. Who would believe the words of a madman? And I smoothly became the boss of the Hector family. The Hector family also had a successful rebirth. Good things come in pairs. Zephyr woke up. Hector hurriedly took me to the hospital together. Humph, I also wanted to visit my dear younger brother. After arriving at the hospital and seeing the awakened Zephyr, who was no longer in human shape, Hector felt extremely distressed. "Zephyr, your brother has already avenged you. The father and son of the Delilah family are all in prison." Zephyr was extremely weak, but when he heard this, shock still showed in his eyes. "You?" Before Zephyr could speak, I sneered. "Yes, dear brother. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to get the criminal evidence of the Hector family." "That's right, I already knew that the Delilah family was full of perverts. Didn't you want to go to the Delilah family? I made it happen for you." Hearing this, Hector shuddered all over. He widened his eyes, full of confusion, and looked at me. "Brother, not only do you need to take revenge, but I also need to take revenge. I want to take revenge on the Delilah family. I want to take revenge for your harassing my wife. And Dad, how could I not take revenge for your heartlessly sending me away to the countryside back then?" I said slowly, speaking very slowly. However, there were already huge fluctuations shown on Zephyr's heart monitor. Hector also hastened to defend himself. "Axel, listen to my explanation." I looked coldly at my so-called father. Since Zephyr was hospitalized, my mother had never visited him again. So every month, I would still go to see my dying younger brother, who was in a vegetative state. That's right. I saw my father jump down from the downstairs. My dear younger brother Zephyr had a cerebral hemorrhage and was in critical condition instantly. However, as the younger brother of the boss of the Yaoguang group, I couldn't let my younger brother die easily. I spent a lot of money to keep my younger brother alive, and every month I would go to his bedside and tell him about my life as general manager. Axel, those who did wrong couldn't be easily punished. During this period of time, I had been taking my wife Evelyn to the hospital for checkups and prenatal care. After all, as an older expectant mother, I was still worried about some accidents. "Husband, do you think our baby will have a heart disease after being born? I'm so worried." Evelyn didn't dislike it. She was just worried from a mother's perspective. However, after being reborn, I didn't expect that my heart disease had disappeared. Evelyn was naturally overjoyed when she knew about it, but suddenly one day, Evelyn said that she wanted to see Zephyr. I was a bit surprised, but still satisfied her request. My wife, with a big belly, came to the bedside. She looked coldly at Zephyr on the bed. In my previous life, you started mocking me as soon as you entered the door. Not only did you use all kinds of dirty words, but you also disclosed all the secrets of our family. You even planned to give me as a gift to the leaders in exchange for resources. Letting you die would be too easy for you." I was shocked when I heard this. Could it be that Evelyn was also reborn? "Honey," I widened my eyes and looked at Evelyn. Only then did I understand that my wife came to the hospital also to vent her anger from her previous life. Fortunately, everything was over. Our life will be getting better and better, while Zephyr can only remain a half-dead vegetative state forever. The end.